All right, y'all. Here we come again. Back at it. Doing something different for Wednesdays. And we're doing something different for Wealth on Wednesday today. I am approaching this as best as I can from a highly analytical, if not critical, perspective on a stock that I own, a stock that I own as a dividend-paying stock, a stock that I own as a traditional stock that all of a sudden in these modern times is trying to portray itself as a fintech stock. I'm talking about Western Union, the Western Union company, famous for over the telegraph line messaging, wiring funds, transferring funds, including MoneyGram. And here we go, y'all. They're calling this a fintech stock, and it has a 10% yield, nearly 10% yield, right? And am I wrong? Am I wrong? And I just want to see if I can be plain. When we talk about competitors for Western Union, money transfer has changed so much, especially from a global perspective, that I don't even, I see Western Union, I see them as a dinosaur almost. I love the dividend, I love the payouts, but I see them as almost a dinosaur. And I say that critically, as I mentioned before, because I'm a shareholder. I own it in a taxable account, 2 taxable accounts, but I'm not looking for it to go off the board somewhere else. I don't see Western Union as a fintech, and I'll explain it, but I'll also explain how Western Union is making moves and portraying itself as a fintech and seeking to compete in the realm of fintech stocks. And this is almost unbelievable, right? It's almost unbelievable. And let's take it from here. Western Union says, one, this is what they do. They are providing money movement and payment services in the United States and internationally. Okay, I got that from Stock Analysis. Okay, and Western Union on its own site says, we help aspiring people and businesses around the world save, spend, and transfer money, empowering more prosperous financial futures for their family, friends, and communities across borders. Here's a caveat. Investors are currently waiting for the February 20th, 2026 earnings report, where Western Union is expected to show a 7.5% rise in earnings per share year over year. Okay, so let's hold right there. Let's hold some water right there. They're saying that Western Union is gonna prove that it's on the rise. But then when we look at some of the stuff that Western Union is purporting and portraying for itself, we're going to see that Western Union is also pushing itself into a new realm and is remarketing or recategorizing, per se, what they do. Check it out. This is the letter, the press release that you'll see on Western Union's site about their presentation that they did this past November at Citi's 14th annual FinTech conference in November, right? that, hey, they're announcing that the company is going to present there and show that the investors will be able to see the presentation via webcast on their website as well, and it'll be archived. It's archived on there. You can check it out. The trouble with this announcement itself is just saying, well, how did we get to fintech? How did we get to being fintech? When I think of Western Union, the biggest competition I would probably say for Western Union would probably be PayPal, right? Something of that nature. Venmo, Cash App. Not that Western Union is a fintech stock. And I see this, and I'm pushing against this, that this presentation is almost like a play on words. Check it out. What we get from Western Union is really there are approximately 360,000 active locations, like retail spots, which means they have over 80 million retail customers. That's where if you go into a place and they have Western Union, that's what they're counting. They have a Western Union office or a Western Union kiosk, whatever, that's what they're counting. And they're doing 2.4 billion in retail money transfers. That's the revenue that's coming out of that, with 400 plus million in retail consumer services revenue. Okay, but check this out. As of February 26, Western Union is navigating a critical turnaround. While legacy revenue is declining, over 55% of transactions are now digital. Over 55% of transactions are now digital. And as of February 10th, 2026, Western Union is trading at approximately $10.10, following a recent month-long rally of 6.09%. I can vouch for that. I got into the stock at just under $10, and they've been climbing, holding steady in that $10 range. And I will say this, they are actually just dropped below $10 today. Let's say for what it is. They dropped below $10 a day, and with the 94-cent dividend, this is what you got. You got a 9.48% yield. That still doesn't sound like fintech to me, right? Ally is a fintech that I'm invested in, and Ally doesn't have a yield over 5%. SoFi is a fintech, and SoFi has yet to pay a dividend, offering way more services than Western Union to help people grow their money and save their money. And so I don't see Western Union in that realm. I don't see it. And so, boom, when we talk about it, the next thing we know, Western Union is saying that they're going to not only look at this from the perspective of their transactions are now digital transfers. Everybody got that? So we're going from wire, quote unquote, to digital. Play on words, semantics, and that's dangerous, right? Know the core business of what you own, whether it's ACH or not. Those are still digital transactions. but that's not new and disruptive in the same sense of what we look at when we look at fintech stocks. So kaboom. This is the part where we start to get kind of funky with the whole Western Union piece. And so bear with me on this. Bear with me on this. Here it goes. Western Union is introducing this first half of the year its own stable coin, right? Its own digital asset. Western Union is introducing its own crypto. Can we stay right there? So they're going from wire transfers to digital transactions, and boom, digital assets with this crypto that they're doing. How do we know this? How do we know this? Western Union is partnering, right? They're partnering with, here's a big name, Solana blockchain, and they're launching this, right? They're launching this US dollar payment token, USDPT, which is a native stable coin aiming for launch early in this year. So if they have their own stable coin, this is going to make them, quote unquote, fintech worthy. Hold on. Solana is not the only one involved in this. There is another company, AXOS Bank, a digital bank, who's also involved in this. And AXOS Bank is going to issue the coin, and they're going to leverage Solana's high-speed, low-cost network to facilitate faster, more efficient international money transfers for consumers. Now, this is part of the big drop that came up for this presentation for the FinTech conference. The plans to have their own stablecoin. And pop this out. Look at this here. The image. It says this will allow Western Union to move more money for ourselves and others, right? And it gives our customers access to USDPT to participate in the digital asset economy. So this is kind of the equivalent of when you go into 7-Eleven and they've got the Bitcoin machine. And how many times have we seen those videos of someone stopping grandma from shoving dollars into the Bitcoin machine to pay off a creditor or something like that? Scam. I can see scammers working this thing powerfully. I can see this coin jumping in price once scammers and black marketers get into it and tearing this thing up. And I'm concerned about the level of investment that Bitcoin is making into this. I mean, that Western Union is making into this. And if any of us have been followers of Bitcoin and other stable coins and digital tokens, of late, we know price fluctuations have been at issue. So all this being said, does this make Western Union all of a sudden a fintech company? Come on, y'all. Heck no. Heck no. Just because someone orders from the app of Costco doesn't mean Costco is a major online retailer. Just because Costco's taking some orders online doesn't mean Costco is neck and neck with Amazon as a major online retailer. It takes more than that as a business, more than putting a foot into an industry for a business to say this is where we're going away from our core business into a new realm. There's a transition time, there's a transition flow, And I don't think that this transition into a stable coin is a long-lasting investment. It's kind of like when Walmart tried to go into banking and finance. Where are we at with that right now? So I'm kind of concerned that Western Union might get distracted in trying to put a lot into making this work, or at least look like it's working. Be concerned. This doesn't make Western Union a fintech. As long as Western Union's core business is money transfers and even international transfers, that still leaves them as a finance company. In fact, they're still listed as credit services under the finance realm. They're not a fintech. They have, as they've pointed out themselves, over what? 300,000, 360,000 active locations. They're still locked in on brick and mortar. That's still overhead. They're not slim and ready to go as we look at when we look at fintechs like AXOS that I shared the other week. They're not slim and up and running like companies like that. And in fact, if we're honest, with nearly 10,000 employees at this point, Western Union is far from the size of a fintech. And they're too saturated in the retail market of brick and mortar to find themselves, dumping that altogether. Because look at the revenue. The transactions may be classified as digital now, but the revenue is coming from people filling out the forms, making the money transfers, people sending money back to their home countries, people transferring, paying bills via Western Union, things of that nature. But they're not fintech in the sense of an Ally, a SoFi, even a PayPal. They're just not that. And I think them trying to portray this or even trying to pursue this level of growth as a company into fintech isn't what investors are waiting for. Investors want to see a return on investment. They want to see growth. And if this, if they earn, 7% earnings per share, cool. They're not doing that with a stable coin asset. And so let's be real and let's be honest. Heck no. These folks ain't in a fintech. Don't let them fool you with that. They're not a fintech. They shouldn't be marketing themselves as a fintech. That's not who they are. Western Union is, as I said, pretty much a business dinosaur that's locked into its retail market, and they had best take advantage of that while they still have that market available and create additional services within that, not trying to get into a whole new financial system that they haven't created a pathway for. If anything, they would have done it as an exchange. They would have partnered with an exchange, not necessarily a blockchain, but an exchange like Coinbase, and they would have made access to other digital coins and digital assets for this particular economy more readily available to people of different classes. That would have made it different, but not the way that they're doing it. At the way that they're doing it, hey, y'all, I'm going to say it like this. I'm going to just put my 2 cents in on it. This is not a fintech. This is a dinosaur trying to disguise itself as a fintech. I still like the dividend. I still like the company for its core business. Let's see where this goes in 2026. God bless.